Hello, welcome to BQ Prime. You're watching a special interaction with TeamLease. They come out with this quarterly employment survey. So, how is the employment scenario looking ahead, especially for the next quarter, January to March? We have joining us today is Rituparna Chakraborty, who is the executive director and co-founder at TeamLease. Rituparna, thank you for joining us on BQ Prime. Take me through what was the gist of what you found as far as employment is concerned for the next one quarter. You do a quarterly survey, so Jan to March. What do you think? Where are employers uh, basing their entire employment opportunities coming in from?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me in the show. I think the one that you're referring to, we have particularly done the survey for the services sector. I think since the last EOR, which is the Q3 EOR, we've kind of segregated the outlook between the services sector and the manufacturing sector. Given that there are so much of granularity that exists between these two clusters that it felt kind of essential to kind of unpack the two. So from the services sector, I think if I can give you some overarching facts, I think the employer sentiment or what we call the intent to hire seems unaffected. And I think they still remain quite buoyant. Almost 77% of the employers are still keen to increase their resource pool as an intent. And it's probably anybody's guess that e-commerce continues to be right on top in terms of hiring sentiments. But along with e-commerce, we are noticing some kind of positive upswings in sentiments in telecommunications, in education services, financial services, retail, as well as logistics. I think, stop me wherever you want, but I'll probably just add a few.
So let me come in here when you talk about opportunities coming in for employment in say e-commerce, logistics, telecom, and
Right.
other services. Have you been able to map them at what level they're coming in, what salary level they're coming in?
Right.
And we saw a lot of volatility with respect to IT sector as a whole in the last 9 months. Do
Right.
you see that volatility now ebbing, or is still a challenge for many of the IT companies?
So I think the volatility is there in the atmosphere. So undeniable, and it will continue. So the one of the things that inside conversations we have these days that while we stick our neck out and give you an employment outlook report for the next 3 months, but we are also cognizant of the fact that at any point, any of these forecasts can change. And I think that's why it's kind of given that outlooks are expected. There is a possibility always. But in terms of the question you asked about levels, interestingly, in this particular outlook, we are seeing that while historically entry level, junior level hirings have been, or the intent to hire has been quite bullish. However, we are noticing that in this particular survey of ours that even middle and senior level are likely to pick up to a certain extent, which is an aberration from the past. And in terms of salary, so that we do a separate survey annually just to kind of give you some guidelines. So while this report, we are not really concentrating on profile-wise salary, but TeamLease Jobs and Salary Primer, which comes out once a year, essentially focuses on that, which will probably give you more insight. However, from my awareness about what's happening at the ground level, we do see that there are some job roles, some sectors where, but then it is not really cuts across the entire sector. It's very job role specific. The more niche it is, the more the higher skilled it is. We are seeing that organizations, in spite of all that's going on in the world, are ready to pay a significant amount of premium. In the course, during the course of the year, we've seen almost a double-digit revision increase that has happened across sectors. And I think that sentiment currently exists. Of course, you've seen some irrationalities in technology, which seem to have or is getting in the is in the process of getting corrected.
Mhm. When you say that a large opportunity is coming in from the for the graduates and entry level, what could be the salary levels for them?
Look, again, I think it is something which swings a lot between job roles and job profiles.
I'm talking about the profiles which you talked about because you said opportunities are coming in e-commerce, telecom,
Yeah.
logistics. So what could be the kind of salary levels which are there for
I
this kind of
think
sector?
at the entry level, salaries are anywhere between minimum wages, starts with at minimum wages, let's say about 9,000-10,000 rupees, can go up to about 25,000 based on which location these kids are deployed. So, and then thereon, I think you are seeing significant jump, which are there. For a sector like technology, the starting compensation could be around, for engineers today, could be around. And I'm not talking about those offers which make it to the news in terms of campus hiring. But if I were to look at an average of engineers, I think that number hovers around probably 30,000 rupees to begin with. But again, it is something which needs so much granularity that maybe whenever we have a longer session, I'll be able to take you through job role wise how the averages and the increments or the starting premise of compensations are.
What about the technology sector? We mentioned briefly about it that attrition is ebbing a bit, volatility is ebbing a bit, but do you see the churn continue there? We saw a lot of startups which had hired at high cost when some of the talents now laying off some of them. That talent is coming into the market, and so that volatility which was there for IT companies of talent crunch has ebbed a bit in that sense. But
Yeah.
do you see that progressing? And now we have reached a normalized level of attrition because we saw many of the IT companies posting more than 20% of attrition rate on a 12-month period, previous 12-month period. So is that ebbing at your end? Do you think that it's normalizing and going back on a faster scale, or is the normalization a very slow process?
Technology will always have a challenge of attrition, given the nature of the sector. However, it's definitely not as high as it used to be. Like we recently reported, maybe a couple of quarters back, that attrition levels were almost 27%. And that's probably not the case anymore. I think organizations, people employed in these organizations are focused around like, let's keep the job in hand, given the kind of uncertainty sometimes that emerges in the technology sector. And also organizations are also keen to retain their existing talent because this constant process of people leaving and then rehiring is extremely unproductive for organization. It's a fact that most companies in the tech sector today have bottom line considerations. All of them are feeling the pinch. And hence, any kind of irrationality that we noticed maybe 2-3 quarters back is a thing of the past right now. And I believe that for the next 18 months, this is going to be the approach of most tech sectors. Having said that, it will be untrue to say that hiring has come to a standstill in that sector. I think at a steady state, whatever requirements are there, essential, critical skills that they require, there is a continued momentum in hiring. But all the highs and the bullish behavior that you noticed probably is a lot more contained and controlled at this point.
I'm not sure whether you track that part of it, of job offers which are put out by IT companies across colleges for entry level graduates and others. Uh, have you seen a bit of slowdown in that kind of offers being rolled out? What we saw last 2 years, where some of the companies were very aggressive to onboard a lot of graduates and then willing to put them on a bench and train them because of the kind of lack of manpower or skill sets they were available in the market?
So yes, I have been tracking the campus hiring bit. It's been in the news for a while, and noticeably, the sectors that have gone to campuses now have been the consulting companies. We've seen some international engineering organized companies. We've seen tech companies going to their healthcare and pharma sector. We've gone. So it's not that tech companies have completely avoided the campuses, and as a matter of fact, the offers have been very attractive. But here again, it's essentially consideration based on the skill that you are able to spot and pick up. Because all said and done, in spite of the current situation and bottom line consideration, technology is a huge prospect for the future for the country in any case. So I think that's a sector that needs to constantly attract high quality talent irrespective. So and if you can pick such talent from the campuses at a much more at a very high quality talent, the kind of skills that come with it, and much of this skills that are picked up from campuses are very relevant and up to date to the world that we're looking at, and some of the future skills also probably are found in the campuses. So organizations have been generous and have been reasonable in the offers, is what I have noticed.
And have they gone down to tier 2 and tier 3? Because if they have bottom line conscious, there has been a trend of moving towards tier 2, tier 3 colleges and looking at talent in those areas. Have you seen in your survey a kind of demand for that kind of talent coming from those areas?
So I don't think the survey particularly covers that aspect. However, I don't see there has been a very widespread and deep penetration in terms of campus hiring across the Cat B, Cat C categories, or at least I don't have evidence of it. Like I said, while they're ready to pay the big bucks, I'm not sure IT companies are there to do campus hiring in hordes and in volumes.
Your survey also mentioned about the fact that you're seeing a nominal decline in rural employment, especially rural geographies. Basically, it's fallen by 1% to 25% odd.
Yeah.
What's the kind of outlook that you see there? Where is that decline coming from?
Yeah, I think if I may be wrong, but I think the survey is saying that we probably stay flat in the intent to hire for rural India. But if you notice simultaneously, the intent of hire in the cities have gone up. So it's nothing but the fact that it's about also the availability of talent in rural India. It's not that it's the hiring has stopped there, but it's pretty much the same level at which earlier organizations were probably looking or had an intent to hire. But then obviously, given that more people are back to the cities, there is, pandemic is behind us. It's just life as normal or as usual. So most of these people also, the talent which were earlier available in rural India are also moving to the bigger cities, and the demand per se in the bigger cities have gone up. So I guess that's probably one explanation, but we probably have to dig deeper to find out if there are any other at the ground level issues, which is probably the reason for this.
Does the survey also look at the work from home, the hybrid model? People are still not willing to come back to big cities and work from their remote locations. And so, employability is rising from those smaller cities or tier 2 cities as compared to the cities, metros and tier 1 cities.
While the survey doesn't cover to that extent about the impact of that in terms of the intent to hire, however, of course, it's a favorite debate, and for all of us, increasingly organizations are leaning towards work from office, and in spite of some of the pushbacks, and I think some of the normalizations in hiring and irrational behavior in tech has also kind of probably to some extent, buoyed probably the shift towards back to office is what I'm sensing, because even a lot of the tech organizations are insisting on work from office. Some of them, of course, have made an attempt to open smaller cohorts and offices in smaller towns or maybe mid-sized towns to kind of ensure that they're able to, some of the youth who's gone back, they have an option to actually stay in those cities and yet come to work in the office premises. But it's not really a widespread phenomena, and it just, everyone is focusing on, and there are enough and more murmurs and conversations going on about the depletion of social capital, the impact on productivity, involvement, engagement, mental health, and so on and so forth. So seems like all indicators are showing there will be a trend towards back to office now.
Rituparna, it's been a pleasure talking to you today on VQ Prime. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.